Having ordered the 7-course oscillations menu at Lido 84, I settled back to enjoy the view from my lakeside table. Soon 2 plates of vegetable amuse-bouche arrived. A tempura fried sage leaf with honey and citrusy tagete leaves, which I believe are a kind of marigold leaf, so a juxtaposition of cooked and raw leaves. A thick slice of steamed zucchini draped with a layer of mint and coarse salt, a triangle of crusco, sun-dried red pepper, a classic of the Basilicata region, here marinated in red currant with a red pepper leaf on top, and lastly, a leaf of red cabbage marinated in vinegar made from gropello, a local wine variety, with a little compote of tajasque olives and linseeds on top. On one of the menu pages, we were asked to approach the meal with curiosity in order to oscillate between clear tastes and fascinating contrasts as imagined by the chef. With these 4 openings, my curiosity was already being satisfied and was sparked for more surprises. The exquisite menu, by the way, was printed on paper crafted by hand in Toscolano, just a few kilometers up the road from Gardone Riviera. The pages were made out of pure cotton in an exclusive design for Lido 84. An elaborate spoon was brought for the next taste, an eggplant soup. The squiggle down the middle was a pumpkin and citrus mostarda. I mustn't forget the extra-long grissini made with olive oil, and the bread made from sourdough starter containing potato and assorted seeds. Both grissini and bread were made in the restaurant, as you should have guessed. It was time for the menu itself to start. I was ready. My first wine, Pietra Nera, made by Marco di Bartoli on Pantelleria, the first winemaker to make a dry zibibbo, as Maître Giancarlo Camanini, brother of Chef Riccardo Camanini, explained. By the way, Lido 84 was opened by the 2 Camanini brothers together in 2014. Plate 1 appeared. That ball in the middle of the pale green dish consisted of perch from Lake Garda, marinated with salt and sugar, with a coating of crispy white corn flour, to which the chef had added fried red shrimp legs to enhance the color and consistency. Beneath the fish ball were a few drops of bitters made by a specialist in Emilia-Romagna who creates aromas for distilled spirits. I hoped my curiosity was living up to the expectations of the chef. A true surprise was the next beverage, Acqua di Cedro, a clear citron liqueur made down the road in Salò by Tassoni. It was to accompany a fin de clair oyster, which had been blanched for just a few seconds inside its shell on a griddle. That delicious red nectar it was resting in requires a bit of explanation. We're talking figs here. The figs are peeled, passed through a coarse sieve, and seasoned with grapefruit juice and timut pepper, the Nepalese cousin of Sichuan pepper, whose aroma is reminiscent of citrus and grapefruit in particular. The leaf on top? A fig leaf, grilled to release its own aromas. I was advised to sniff it rather than eat it, although it would be edible. It was used here for olfactory enhancement. I thought it made a beautiful aesthetic complement as well. Eating this extraordinary composition, I almost forgot my surroundings, not for the last time during this lunch. The maître presented my next wine, a cuvée of Tokai Friulano, Malvasia Istriana, and Ribolla Gialla from Edi Keba in the Coglio in Friuli.
In questo caso fa un anno di chimbotto di cemento.
The wine is fermented and aged in tubs of cement, the traditional method used in this area. This wine accompanied a dish whose simplicity was sensational in its understatement. A spaghetto, one extra long strand, with butter and dried brewer's yeast. The latter's consistency was close to meringue, and the flavor had hints of hazelnut, bread crust, and cream. Once again I was invited to sniff before eating. I happily complied. I was also provided with the information that this dish had been selected for an exhibition at the Museum of Modern Art in San Francisco. I feel sorry for the museum visitors who could look, but neither smell nor eat the spaghetti. Worth the trip from Milan just for this, but actually that goes for every single course. Staying with the same wine, we proceeded to the next primo, the most visually dramatic risotto I've ever eaten. Described simply as risotto with black garlic and red fruits. That translated to garlic fermented in water for roughly 40 days, during which it loses its garlic taste and acquires the flavor of dried mushrooms and woodsy undergrowth. A kind of palatal trompe-l'oeil meant it tasted a bit like a risotto with dried mushrooms, of which none were included. The red fruits, meaning raspberries and red currants, served to provide an acidic contrast. A risotto the likes of which I'm not likely to encounter again, alas. The red wine brought me back to reality. A biodynamic wine from the Colli Lucchesi outside Lucca in Tuscany, from Palistarti di Valgiano. This was a cuvée of Sangiovese, Merlot, and Syrah. It signaled the imminent arrival of two secondi. First, a veal sweetbread, on top of which we found a tartare of cold, raw, sweet and sour carrot, to which mixture cumin and rue had been added to provide a pleasantly bitter note. If I'm not botanically way off, those two leaves on top are rue leaves. The drops of liquid encircling the sweetbread were a reduction of orange-flavored punch. You know from following my vlog that I love sweetbreads. This was the first time I'd had them where rue was involved. In fact, I can't recall previously having had rue in any other food either. The advent of a la guiole knife indicated a cut of meat was next up. Bavette di manzo, which would probably be a beef flank cut, even though cuts of meat and their names vary widely from one country and cuisine to another. I was told it is a very lean cut, and it's apparently used in France to make beef tartare. Here the beef was grilled, then rested. The juices were added to duck fat. Then a slice of bergamasque lard was added, which melts and augments the juiciness. On top of all this, the Nebbiolo pomace mixed with the Piemontese sheep milk cheese Testun al Barolo. So, 4 different animals in just one dish. Cow, duck, pig, and sheep. All I can say to that is, yes please. Alongside it was a modest dollop of potato puree in the simplest ratio of potatoes to butter imaginable. For each kilo of potatoes, 1 kilo of butter. As the young waiter added, sometimes one just has to expend that special extra effort. No effort necessary to enjoy this. After a brief pause, which I requested, the sweet ending to the meal was ushered in by a passito from the Colosi winery on the Sicilian island of Salina. The dessert was a torta delle rose, as the shape somewhat resembles a rose, a speciality of the provinces of Mantova and Brescia, where Gardone is located. Its exact preparation method was patiently explained to me by the waiter, and here I need to underline what fabulous waitstaff Lido 84 has. The explanation finished with the warning that as the cake was baked à la minute, the insides would be very hot. I should wait a bit, break off pieces with my fingers, and dip them into the zabaione al vov, and then eat them with my hands. Vov is an egg liqueur, incidentally, and theirs was of course homemade. What can I say? The cake, the zabaione, the passito. I was in a trance of speechless delight. A coffee to bring me back to the real world was accompanied by 2 extra sweets. A piece of torrone, the classic confection from Cremona, here in Lido 84's version, including a bit of candied bergamot, and a curvaceous wafer made of almonds, coarse salt, citrus peel, and turmeric. 4 hours had passed since my arrival, while I enjoyed the best lunch of my life. My right forearm was sunburned, along with a slice of my right temple, as I was too embarrassed to have the shade umbrella, already moved twice by the waiters, adjusted a 3rd time. With my asymmetrical sunburns, I probably looked scary. I hope the other guests and the staff weren't alarmed. I had missed my last possible boat connection from Gardone back to Desenzano, but I so didn't care. As I said goodbye, made my way past the adjacent beach volleyball cage, and set off back down Corso Zanardelli. Somewhere past the Grand Hotel Fasano, I caught the bus. Not as relaxing as the boat, but at this point, nothing could have bothered me. A thunderstorm was brewing as I waited for my train back to Milan. Fortunately, it broke just after I got back to my hotel.